Hello and welcome to Bhumi Pednekar, all the way from Kalimpong. Thank you so much for joining us in this very special edition of Expressions brought to you by the New Indian Express as well as Savlon. Bhumi, thank you so much for joining us and thank you so much for doing everything that you've been doing as a COVID warrior. You really have been doing extraordinary work. I know you've been sleeping very little. You've been working long hours. You've been constantly on social media, providing help, patching people together. It's been an extraordinary journey for you over the last few months, Bhumi, and a very painful one as well, intensely personal to
Yeah.
begin with. And then I think you realized that you needed to reach out to people as well. I think that's just the best way you can possibly have channeled your own. Pain to help others. So, could you tell us a little about your journey and what are the things that you've learned?
For starters, thank you so much for motivating me for all the work that we've done. Honestly, as you rightly said, it started off as a very personal journey. Because my mom and I, we both were hit by COVID, and it wasn't very pleasant. We really had the worst of the disease. My mom had to be hospitalized for 12 days, and that's when I realized that it wasn't very easy because as a family member you don't really have easy access to the patient who is hospitalized. You're so unaware of what needs to be done. There are so many opinions. At that time the doctors were prescribing plasma, and that's where my journey actually started because I had no idea how do I arrange this. And I put out a kind of a request on different WhatsApp groups because that's literally the advice that the blood bank gave me. That kind of ask around in your circle if you can find a donor. I was like, okay. I was like, that's not going to be easy. I started off by kind of asking my friends, and in a couple of hours, I was flooded with donors. And that's when I realized that okay, I can maybe use my social media and the reach I have for actual positive change and to actually help people. But I was very unwell when all of this happened. A couple of days later, the second wave really hit us bad. Like Maharashtra, it started off in Maharashtra. It was really, really bad. And I went into my DMs and I kind of started, I was like, let me see if anybody has reached out to me. Because I honestly didn't know how to help people. I tried contacted the blood banks that I was in touch with, but nobody could really, I couldn't find resources that I could connect with to help people. So I was like, let me turn to my social media. In my DMs, I found like a couple of requests. I shared them on my Instagram, and there was no looking back, honestly. In some time, I got a revert from the person that I had tried helping that, ma'am, thank you so much. We found a donor and we really appreciate your help. And that's it. The way things kind of churned out from there, I met like minded people. I kind of started communicating with other influencers from various other streams that were doing similar work. And, here we are 2 months later, and there's this community that we formed that has like over 350 volunteers working from it being purely something that I started off, to help people with plasma and like, the simpler things.
Right.
It actually today we do everything, like from ICU beds to ventilators to ECMO machines. It could be blood platelet requests. A few days ago, it was plasma. It can be milk for like newborn children. It can be anything and everything that we can help people with in this war against COVID that we have. And it's completely voluntary.
Right.
Honestly, the first day that I formed that group, COVID Warrior, on WhatsApp, it was just me and two more people. And within hours, there were 70 volunteers working with us. Medicos, college students
Right.
who, and the only thing they told me is that, we can't utilize our time better than this.
Right.
And today we have volunteers from across the globe. We have people in America, in England. So, there's this synergy. There's this very beautiful unorganized chaos. That's what, and there's no system to it whatsoever. I don't know, it's literally Bhagwan Bharose, but we are helping people and we are reaching out to people. And, I've genuinely seen a huge impact. So, yeah.
So, in these dark times, Bhumi, there has been some light. And And you talked about unorganized chaos, but I've noticed that you've also tried to put some order into
Oh
that
yeah,
chaos. You've tried to tell people follow this format, and please send all the information, and people have adhered to that. So even
yes.
within this darkness, what are the things that you learned about humanity? Because this is possibly the greatest crisis. I hope it doesn't get worse than this that we will face. So, what are the things that you learned really?
As you rightly said, that this probably is the most amount of tragedy that I've seen firsthand.
Right.
Because there were literally some nights, especially when we were in the thick of it, I would say like maybe 2.5 weeks ago, or maybe a little more. If I speak specifically of Delhi NCR and all our northern states, there were times when it was so heartbreaking because we would literally get SOS calls, or like somebody would reach out to me on Twitter and be like, my mom's crashing. I've been in the car with her for the last 6 hours. We don't have an oxygen cylinder. I can't even reach Delhi from Noida. That's like only an hour long journey. And what we are doing is that we're literally trying to figure out, okay, fine. There are some volunteers of ours that are kind of that trying to find cylinders and this that 3 in the morning, or a concentrator, or we're trying to figure out if there's a gurudwara that can help, if they can go somewhere, and ultimately we tell them, okay, go outside this hospital. They will have to give you emergency oxygen. So I don't think I've honestly had the time to kind of step back and understand what's going on and how we've managed this, or how, whatever little we could do in, saving a life. But the biggest learning that I've got out of this is that if we together as a community, if we join hands, we can genuinely fight anything. And that's exactly what's happened. Like right now, there is this network of people, made by the people, for the people, purely
Right.
to service mankind.
Right.
And that has like really, I don't know, I mean, it's motivated me. It has really made me feel more secure as a person. Today I feel like there's an entire community that I can fall back on if anything goes wrong in my life.
Right.
And I mean, I can't thank the internet and social media enough, because I think more than often people, especially in the last few months, or the way all of last year has been, more than often people have always, there's been a lot of negative connotation around this medium.
Yeah.
And I have seen that if you use it in a positive way, the kind of change that we can bring about. Because I honestly feel actions speak louder than words. And we have used this medium to actually bring about positive change. The number of people that we've reached out to, and not just me, when I say we, it's all our volunteers. Like, I'm a volunteer in this group. I must have initiated it, but we all, there's no hierarchy here. We all are playing on like similar grounds. We all have our strengths. There are things that I can't do that some other volunteer can do. There are things that they reach out to me specifically for. And it's like, when we lose a patient, we go back into our groups and we kind of share that grief.
Right.
When something good happens, like, we all know that the second wave has hit pregnant women really bad. So, there were times where we had like a 8 month pregnant woman who was very critical, and we had to kind of, get her from a different city into Delhi, and, to, and then she would like give birth, and her baby and the mother both are safe. And there were these moments also that we would kind of go back into the group and share. It's just constant encouragement. And honestly, I have never felt this connected with humanity. Naturally, I've always had a tendency to kind of give back. But what I have experienced in the last 2 months is like life changing. Like, it's completely changed my perspective towards the power of just your intention.
Yeah.
Just having the right intention, just having the intent to actually go out and help. And it can be anything, because you can't quantify the amount of help you do, right? It can be anything. It could just be a phone call, like, trying to get an ambulance for somebody. And that can actually save somebody's life.
Yeah.
And I'm so inspired, honestly, ma'am, by all our volunteers. They are maybe like the average age of our volunteers would be 19.
Wow.
And the amount of hours these medicos put in,
Right.
They all have kind of created their own network. There's like this parallel underground network of information that we have been living on.
Mm.
I didn't ever think this would happen. Like literally we have like our ins within different hospitals. We all have like our people that we kind of fall back on. I mean, it's so interesting. And it's definitely very heartbreaking. But, just the
Yeah.
way we have managed to kind of create this system of various resources that kind of eventually come together and help one human life is something that I'm very inspired by.
Right. And Bhumi, your work with I wouldn't call them social causes. I would call them life-changing causes. That's not new. I know you work tremendously in the area of sanitation. You've given your voice, your time, your energy to that cause. You've given your voice and energy and time to climate change as well. And these are all things that are completely interrelated. And now, when you see what's happening to humanity with COVID, a lot of what you were doing otherwise is must actually be making sense to you. When you connect the dots, you see that where you began your journey as a sort of social warrior, shall we say, and your journey to becoming a COVID warrior is also the journey of humanity to from a climate and sanitation crisis to where we are currently, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, I keep going back to all the articles or papers that I read, where you had doctors and scientists, experts constantly telling you that, if we don't stop, if we don't change our habits and our perception towards climate change or sanitization or the health crisis, this is exactly what's going to happen. Pandemics were predicted because there was certain amount of logic and science that went
Exactly.
behind it. I mean, just human behavior amazes me. Yeah, it honestly amazes me because even if you look at last year, suddenly, our society was behaving like we have overcome, the virus. Everything seemed so normal. People were not wearing masks, and this is the after we've already experienced what the virus could do.
Right.
So I really hope that after the second wave, people kind of get an understanding. It's all about your personal habits and about the lifestyle changes that you make. It is important to respect the resources that Mother Nature has given us, right? When we think of the fact that there's an entire race where we, because of the amount of air pollution, our lungs have become so weak that we can't even withstand pneumonia anymore.
Can't breathe.
It's always been
Yeah.
there.
I mean, we
It's
don't know how
become
to breathe
untreatable.
anymore.
Exactly. It's become so difficult. Like, and people don't understand that the fact that why is our immunity going low? Our immunity has gone low because today our food does not have that kind of nutrition that it did years ago.
Right.
There have been many disease and virus outbreaks. I'm not denying that.
No, we were just talking about climate change, Bhumi, and you're right in the middle of a cyclone, even as we speak. So, these things are coming home to bite us really badly.
Absolutely. In fact, a few days ago, Maharashtra, the western coast was hit by Tokti.
Yeah.
I, in my living adult life, have never seen a cyclone hit Bombay.
Right.
And that's when I kind of started, speaking with everyone. I was like, we do realize that. And when you go back and, again, I started reading up, like now they say that the Arabian Sea is going to be a hotbed for cyclones, which wasn't the case. And that is because of, climate change. And it's these things that really bother me. And, I kind of like understand how ignorant our race is.
Right.
We prefer living a life of convenience. So do I. But I really feel like small little changes in your everyday life can have such a huge impact. Like what I was actually kind of also speaking of earlier was that, when you look at statistics, like there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than marine life, that
Yeah.
really bothers me.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the amount, even if, as human beings, we want to be selfish. I don't think we kind of step back and understand the amount of microplastic that we are consuming on a daily basis. So these things that really amaze me about like, our race, because we are so intelligent, we have so much knowledge, yet we make such little use of all the education and knowledge that we have. It's quite, yeah.
So, Bhumi, all this experience, can you sort of step back a little? I know you're still very much in the thick of organizing things, but has it allowed you to step back a little and think, what can you do? What can people like you do in a way to sort of ensure that next time something like this, next time a pandemic hits us, we are better prepared, and we can do that, because let's suppose, okay, we don't expect the government to organize everything, and I think we have to expect that now. What are the things that we can do to make sure that healthcare becomes a priority for governments to invest in, for corporates to invest in, for people to care about?
Ma'am, today I feel every house has a story.
Yeah.
Of people that have lost their near and dear ones, and I don't think there can be a bigger learning than this.
Right.
The second wave has been way worse than what happened last year. Last year, with like some, I think 700 cases, I'm not very sure of the numbers, we had a lockdown. That's how we could kind of control, but that's not the solution, right? Because,
Yeah.
you need to work. I mean, I'm not an expert. I don't really understand what disaster management is. I just started off like on this journey, and it's turned into like, something that has been fruitful. But what I feel is the only way we can be prepared is if individually everybody takes responsibility of themselves. There is so much information out there about what to do, how to do, and none of us follow it. Small little things like how do we avoid the third wave? Double mask. It's literally like your vaccine. Get vaccinated. Make sure that people around you who are hesitant know that no, vaccine's not the enemy, it's your friend. That's the only way we can be prepared. Listen to what doctors and scientists have to say. And I honestly don't know any other way. And something that I observed in the last 2 months is that there's such stigma around falling sick, due to COVID, that so many people, especially in rural India, never come out and, kind of acknowledge their sickness. So they only are kind of taken to a hospital, or they only get any kind of doctor supervision once they're supremely critical. And unfortunately, our infrastructure is not strong enough. And it's just not India, even globally, when you see any country that was hit this bad, their infrastructure completely crumbled.
Right.
Like last year, last year, if you look at New York, or you look at Italy, you look at France, like all these countries kind of went through this, but the population is a lot lesser. Our population is massive, and that's why the burden on our medical sector is just so much more. So I feel the only way the third wave can be better, and if we listen to, like, again, the experts, there will be a third wave, is if we take responsibility, follow government protocol, follow the norm that doctors have kind of put out. Don't be scared. If you are showing symptoms, self-isolate. Make sure that you don't give it to 10 more people. Don't be a super spreader. Double mask. Wash your hands. It's literally these basics. And if we follow these basics, we can, like, honestly protect ourselves. The film set that we were on, when like I got COVID, everybody who was wearing a mask, unfortunately, as actors, we can't, right? So we felt sick. But there were people in my staff, who were always wearing a mask, and they didn't get it. And they were in extreme close proximity with me all the time. So it's happened like right there, like in front of me. And I mean, that's the only thing that I can really encourage people to do, don't self-medicate. It's the worst. I mean, you should not. The moment you show symptoms, go to a doctor, get help, and spread the knowledge. And I'm just waiting for, I mean, honestly, the only way out, I feel, is like, for a large portion of our population to be vaccinated. But I also feel that somewhere individuals who have monetary resources to kind of put back into the economy, we should invest in medical infrastructure. Bring in those ECMO machines, bring in those ventilators. Let's create more intensive care units, especially in rural India, because if cities suffer this much, like now the traffic on my Twitter has gone, I would say 50 or 60% less. because the population that's now being hit does not have access to me via social media.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, so whatever we can do, yeah, and it's so sad, and I don't know what to do. But fortunately, you know, I've been working with organizations where we are trying to, you know, where we are getting in touch with the gram panchayats, where we are trying to, you know, kind of um, uh, support, give aid to district level hospitals, because they are the ones that are going to be affected now. You know, so we
Absolutely.
are trying to work our way around it. But again, we are not the experts. We don't know much. It's all knowledge that we've gained over the last 2 months.
Yeah, but it's all valuable knowledge, Bhumi, because these are the things that are going to actually help us in planning for the future. You know, in planning for a future where
Absolutely.
even if viruses reoccur, and we all know now, we've been told that this is just the beginning, there'll be all kinds of variants, mutants, you know, every year we may have to face it. So, some of the things that you've learned can actually go back into the planning. As you said, have more a private sector investment in healthcare in at district levels, or train more staff. I mean, there are horrendous stories of you know, ventilators being available but no staff that is trained to use it. So these are some of the things.
Yeah. Absolutely. In fact, I feel the point that you just made, that we need to, like, you know, retrain our medical staff, is
Yeah,
absolutely right. Because especially usually what happens is, where with the smaller hospitals, like, you know, in a pre-pandemic era,
mm,
smaller hospitals, if they had such critical patients, those patients would kind of be pushed into the larger hospitals or the
exactly.
larger cities.
Yeah,
Today, we don't have that. You
right.
know, today we need to have medical staff that knows how to operate that ventilator, you know, that knows that, okay, this amount of oxygen support can do good or harm. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that is so important. In fact, we have had cases, I didn't know what a BiPAP was until, like, I got into this. You know, I didn't know what an ECMO machine was. But we've literally, like, this is again when we were in the thick of it, okay? Where literally we've sent like a BiPAP machine from Delhi to, like, you know, this district in Uttarakhand, and the doctors could not fix it. So
exactly.
we were on a WhatsApp video call, seeing a YouTube video, trying to figure it out.
Can
And
you imagine?
at that moment, you are trying to do everything possible. But imagine the amount of risk that you're putting the patient through.
Yeah,
But that was the best alternative. And I think it's so important to kind of re-educate our medical staff and even our medicals, and, you know, actual practical knowledge, because we need to have an army of force that is completely ready to battle the third wave and whatever other, you know, outbreak of, oh my God, whatever horrendous virus comes our way.
yeah, and you know, we have people, we have nurses, we have paramedics, we have doctors, young doctors, as you found, who are really willing to work, but it's just that their training
Yeah,
has been so different.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I do wish that some of these learnings become permanent. That is my only concern. You know, as we saw, as you said yourself, last year, we went through such terrible times. Then we lapsed back into our old habits, you know. Do you feel that we will go back to our bad old ways? And that's a terrible
I hope
thought, isn't it?
not. It's a terrible thought. It's a thought that really, like, you know, gives me like shivers down my spine. But I hope not, because, you know, as I said earlier, also, ma'am, I feel every house has a story today.
Right.
You know, there were people that thought that they were completely like, oh, you know, the COVID would not hit me. I'm a fit person. My
I'm so
immunity is
fit.
high. Yeah, or I have the money to, you know, beat the disease. But today, irrespective of whatever strata of the society you belong to, we all are one. You know,
Yeah.
because by the end of it, we all are made up of cells and organs, and you know, it's the same blood. So it really doesn't matter. But I do hope that people understand that there will be a third wave coming in, and we need to kind of gear up for it. This is no conspiracy, or, you know, this is like, I mean, we can see it. And, you know, I have seen a shift. There were so many people who didn't believe that the COVID virus existed last year, you know, and I would have like these really stupid arguments with people and debate with them. And I was like, what is wrong with you? Just because your country is not that badly hit. But if you look at, like, you know, countries in the West, it
Mm.
was really bad. And but today they all have changed their mind, and, you know, they are following protocol. They are, you know, being aware, because, you know, it's not about it's just not about your health. You can give it to your parent.
Yeah.
They are at a vulnerable age. You can give it to somebody who cannot monetarily afford. It's a very, very expensive disease if you get it bad. Once
Yeah.
you get critical, like being on a ventilator or being on an ECMO machine or being in an ICU, is very expensive, because we don't have those many government hospitals. So,
Right.
even if you are like, it's also very expensive for the middle class of our country, which is like the majority portion of our population,
In urban
and the
areas.
poor. I mean, how will they afford it? It's
Yeah.
very, very expensive. I know people who have like, because we also kind of help people fundraise through like different organizations. There are people who've like sold their businesses, their homes, like they've gone to their last dime to save their loved one. I mean, I don't know how much more can I say for people to really not repeat this.
Yeah. It really is. It's Bhumi, I wonder how has it changed you as an artist? Because so much of what an artist is absorbed from the environment, absorbed from her own experiences. How has that affected you as an artist, as a person?
I don't know yet, because as I said, I've not really had a chance to honestly kind of step back and evaluate the whole situation and the kind of, I'm sure it's had an effect on me. Maybe I'll have some PTSD, who knows?
I
But,
hope not.
fortunately, I hope not. But, fortunately, I have a very strong support system at home. And because I'm not in this alone, there's so many like me who are trying to help. I draw a lot of strength from it. I do feel that I've definitely become a lot more compassionate and empathetic as a person. And I have no respect for people who don't show this compassion. And I have no shame in saying that. Like, now is the time when I'm really like, I understand that you don't have to kind of give in all your time and your effort into this. I completely get it. But I do feel that there has to be some part of you that wants to help in some way or the other. Because this is like the largest, this is like, I mean, I don't think any of us have seen such high levels of human tragedy, right?
Mm.
So I really, I have reached a point where I do judge people who've not like shown any kind of help. It can be monetary, it can be time, it can be anything, but you need to do something in today's time, because only as a community can we overcome this. But as an artist, I don't know, I'm sure, like, I'm somebody who does use her personal experience, and I do channelize like a lot of what I've felt, in my work, in my performance. I'm sure, I might sound as like a greedy artist, but I'm sure these experiences
Yeah.
will, like, I will channelize them somewhere. I mean, that's what life and art is all about, right? But as of now, I've not really had the time to absorb it.
Process.
We're all just going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think
We're all just like
you're
at
just,
it.
yeah. And I believe there are days when you hardly slept, like 4 hours, 5 hours,
Yeah,
because you want to wake up and you want to see what's next. That
yeah,
must have taken a
yeah.
toll on you in terms of your health as well.
You know, it's so I started this right as I was recovering.
Right.
And I remember the first day when so we didn't really have any time. It's not like, we kind of waned into it. We were
Yeah.
thrown in this, like we jumped into it, and it was a tsunami. Like, I could not understand what's going on, because literally, like, just if I have to kind of explain the way we work, is that one requirement would take anywhere between 20 calls to 200 calls. There are days where I've spent like literally 18 to 20 hours just looking for an ECMO machine,
God.
so it's crazy. There were times where we had 7 or 8 patients per volunteer, and we are coordinating amongst each other. We are, trying to calm the family down. And back then, like, the lack of sleep, etc., didn't really hit you because you had no time. Like, you are just going. It literally reached a point that if we lost a patient, or we didn't even have any time to mourn. We just moved on,
Gone.
because you don't really have any choice. And
Yeah.
I mean, I have such respect for all our frontline workers and all our doctors and everybody who's like dealing with it face to face, because
Yeah.
it's not easy, to see that level of human tragedy and that level of misery. And, just not the patient, it's also the family.
Family.
There's so much to deal with. There's so much, because they pin so much of their hope on you, and especially if you're an actor, if you're a person of influence, the families feel like, okay, we've really got like an anchor to kind of lean on. But by the end of it, we are all just,
Human.
we all are just regular citizens of this
Yeah.
country. There's only that much that we can do. But I do know that we don't leave any stone unturned. Like, right from calling people of influence to like calling ward boys in hospitals. As I said earlier, there's this network that we just kind of unleash on. But fortunately, in the last few days, the bed issue has become better. Once the oxygen problem was sorted, things kind of became better. And yeah, so I mean, there are a lot of emotions in a day, but I also feel that I'm a pressure junkie. So I was okay. I feel like I was okay. I was managing it okay.
Great. And of course, there are so many challenges before us now. The vaccination is going to be the next challenge. Make sure that people who are skeptics go there, get their vaccination. Make sure we have enough vaccines. I mean, the challenges will never end. And for someone with a social conscience like you, there's no end to the amount of, help that you can give out there. And I'm sure whether you like it or not, you will be drawn into it. Are you prepared for
I think
that?
I'm okay. I think so. Now I do know that, and I feel I am that sort of a person. I do like taking certain amount of social responsibility on myself. I've always been that person, and that is kind of reflected in the work that I do.
All the
Or,
work that
most of my actions.
yeah.
Yeah,
Even on
I mean, it's
screen,
a part of. Yeah, absolutely. So I feel consciously, or even unconsciously, just the kind of person that I am. So I don't see this as a burden, honestly. I see it as something that'll always coexist in my life. I don't know how would things be once I start shooting, but I just hope that, with all the volunteers that we have, we will manage. And I'm always available. And, like, fortunately, social media is such a powerful tool that even the times that I'm not, like now, what happens is, there might be like a time that I'm busy and I go back to Twitter and there are already queries that have been taken care of by other good Samaritans who maybe follow me on Twitter. So I mean, I don't know how, but I think I think it'll happen, and I'm okay. I'm happy to like help, and because I know that tomorrow, if I need it, there'll be like so many just there who would like give me the support. So that gives me a lot of strength, and I'm okay.
Thank you so much, Bhumi, for all the work you do on screen, off screen, and more power to you. It's been such a pleasure
Thank
talking
you.
to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
अब डिसइंफेक्टिंग सजा नहीं, मजा है. नया Savlon Surface Disinfectant Spray. No tension for surface disinfection. Savlon.